Welcome to At Home with Music. I'm Leon Olguin, or as my young students call me, Mr. O. As I've pointed out in previous videos, with hymns, the tunes are often separate from the texts, not like songs today where the tune and the words are inseparable. So if you look through a hymnal, you'll often find a single tune used for several different texts, or you'll find a text being paired with several different tunes. In my previous video on O Little Town of Bethlehem, I talked about how this particular text had more than one tune. And I'll talk more about that phenomenon in another video. It's a fascinating subject. But let's get to the Christmas carol, or carols, I should say, that I want to highlight in this video. So first, let me play a little bit of the tune. So what comes to mind when you hear that tune? Well, most of you are probably thinking about Good King Wenceslas. And this is a song that actually tells a story. It tells the story of a Bohemian king, Bohemia being the modern-day Czech Republic. This king goes on a journey, braving harsh winter weather in order to bring a meal to a poor peasant. And he does so on the Feast of Stephen, which is December 26th, the second day of Christmas. And during the journey, his page, that is, his servant, is about to give up the struggle against the cold weather. But he is enabled to continue by following the king's footsteps, step for step, through the deep snow. And miraculously, the good king's footsteps, they seemingly heat up the ground. And so the page is able to continue. And so there's a moral to this story, and that is, it is good for Christians to be charitable, because in giving to those in need, the giver will find a blessing. Good King Wenceslas is not really a Christmas song, but it is often associated with the Christmas season. The Good King in this song is based on a real person, based on the life of Saint Wenceslas, who was not a king, but a duke, and he was the Prince of Bohemia from 921 until his death, probably in 935. According to the legend, he was assassinated by his younger brother, Boleslas the Cruel. So Duke Wenceslas was considered a martyr, and after his death, several biographies were written about him, and he gained a reputation for heroic virtue, for charitable deeds. And eventually, he became a saint. And after his death, he was declared to be a king by the Pope, and he became the patron saint of the Czech state. And so he is the subject of this well-known song. Good King Wenceslas is not really a Christmas carol, but it is a carol for St. Stephen's Day, or the Feast of Stephen, the second day of the 12 days of Christmas. So you can't really call this a hymn. It's never sung in church, but instead, it's a song that tells this story about a miracle associated with an act of charity. In 1853, this text was translated from a Czech poem by, and I'm not sure I'm going to pronounce this name correctly, but Václav Alois Svoboda, or Svoboda. Well, anyway, it was translated by John Mason Neal, an English Anglican priest, scholar, and hymn writer. He worked on this in collaboration with his music editor, Thomas Helmore. And the carol first appeared in Carols for Christmastide, published by Novella and Company in that same year, 1853. So if you look at this text, you'll notice you have three characters that are telling, or rather singing, the story. First of all, you have the choir. It's a big group of people that are singing and telling the story. And then you have the king, who sings and tells part of the story, and the page, the king's servant. So the choir sets the stage, and this is the verse that everybody knows. And most people only know this verse and not the rest of it. Good King Wenceslas looked out on the Feast of Stephen, when the snow lay round about deep and crisp and even, brightly shone the moon that night, though the frost was cruel, when a poor man came in sight, gathering winter fuel. The good king is looking out over this winter scene, and he sees a poor peasant gathering wood. And now the king sings the next verse. "Hither, page, and stand by me." In other words, he's calling to his servant, "Hey, come here. If thou knowest it, telling, yonder peasant, who is he, where and what his dwelling?" In other words, the king is saying to his page, "Hey, who is that peasant out there? Do you know where he lives?" And the page replies, "Sire, he lives a good league hence, underneath the mountain, right against the forest fence by St. Agnes' fountain." This page knows exactly where this fellow lives. And so in the next verse, the king sings again. "Bring me flesh and bring me wine. Bring me pine logs hither. Thou and I will see him dine when we bear them thither." In other words, bring some meat, bring some wood. We're going to go cook this guy dinner. And now the choir sings. "Page and monarch, forth they went. Forth they went together through the rude wind's wild lament and the bitter weather." Now in the next verse, the page is in trouble. "Sire, the night is darker now, and the wind blows stronger. Fails my heart, I know not how I can go no longer." And the good king replies, "Mark my footsteps good, my page. Tread thou in them boldly. Thou shalt find the winter's rage freeze thy blood, lest coldly." The king is telling the page, "You see my footsteps? Put your feet in my footsteps." And the choir continues the story. "In his master's steps he trod where the snow lay dinted. Heat was in the very sod which the saint had printed." It's kind of like a miracle here. Wherever the king put his foot, there was heat in the soil. And the page was able to continue. Now the choir tells us the moral of the story. "Therefore, Christian men, be sure, wealth or rank possessing, ye who now will bless the poor shall yourselves find blessing." That's the story of good King Wenceslas. But there's another set of words for this same tune. And this set of words is often included in many hymnals. And it's a hymn called "Gentle Mary Laid Her Child." And according to hymnary.org, this text appears in about 48 different hymnals, including my personal copy of the Trinity hymnal. This text was written by Joseph Simpson Cook in 1919. Now, Cook was a Methodist minister and theologian. He was born in 1859 in Durham County, England, and he died in 1933 in Toronto, Canada. During his lifetime, he contributed articles and verse to many church-connected magazines. This hymn is his best-known hymn, and it was written in 1919, as I said, and it won a contest of the Methodist Weekly Christian Guardian. This text is not as well known as Good King Wenceslas, but it is certainly more directly about the birth of Christ. "Gentle Mary laid her child lowly in a manger. There he lay, the undefiled, to the world a stranger. Such a babe in such a place, can he be the Savior? Ask the saved of all the race who have found his favor. Angels sang about his birth. Wise men sought and found him. Heaven's star shone brightly forth, glory all around him. Shepherds saw the wondrous sight, heard the angels singing. All the plains were lit that night. All the hills were ringing. Gentle Mary laid her child lowly in a manger. He is still the undefiled, but no more a stranger. Son of God, of humble birth, beautiful the story. Praise his name in all the earth. Hail, the King of glory." You've got two sets of lyrics set to the same melody, and this is actually a 13th century spring carol called Tempus Adest Floridum. The time is near for flowering. And it was published in P.A. Cantionis. I don't think I'm saying that right, but it's a Finnish song collection from 1582. And so the original carol is about springtime. It's interesting. You've got one text that's about a king who does a good deed. You have another text about the mother of Christ laying him in a manger. And then you have a tune that was written for springtime. Anyway, these things all come together to create a tune that everybody knows. So let's learn how to play this tune. And once again, you'll have the opportunity to follow along with me as I show you some simple ways to play this particular tune, which is actually called Tempus Adest Floridium. Oh my goodness, my Latin is bad. Anyway, you'll see it on the sheet music. It's the music for Good King Wenceslas and Gentle Mary laid her child, and I'm going to show you how to play it.